shut up. Everybody shut up. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Boy, you'd better quit all your sexist ways. So here I'll manifesto of the modern age. It's time to undermine the masculine confines, cause we don't wanna grind. You think that you're so slick, let me emasculate ya, because your precious dick can't be my vibrator. We're feeling the frustration from all the exploitation. Prepare for your castration, so we can fuck this man's world with all its bullshit. Girls don't deserve it, and that's why we quit. We ain't good girls. We are scholastic, smart and sarcastic, not fucking plastic. Listen, mankind, if you wanna get nasty, just don't harass me. You can't just grab me, that's a sex crime. Yeah, we don't want it, it's chauvinistic. You're such a bigot. What you see on TV doesn't speak equality. It's straight up misogyny. Don't want you to come on my face. You think you're hunky? Hey, hey, hey. You wanna hug me? Hey, hey, hey. Don't you mean fuck me? Hey, hey, hey. One thing I ask of you, don't assume that we all just wanna screw. Gotta respect me for me to be your boo. We don't want no scrubs, no we don't approve. Need a universal role reversal in real life, not a dress rehearsal. Gotta resist all the gender roles, trying to put misogyny on parole, put exploitation on probation. Time for you to witness our liberation. There's more to life than penetration and sexual discrimination. So tonight we ignite our civil rights, resist chauvinism, win the fight, cause you're living large, just like a montage of you and your friends acting out entourage. But we ain't whores to do your household chores, to make you a sandwich when we're on all fours. From history to herstory, know you got some opinions that we don't agree. Need to call my sister Joan of AIC, a bigger feminist cake, Antoinette Marie. Yeah, guys, we got spies. Now all you wanna do is fertilize, but avert your eyes from my thighs. Never tell a bitch you gotta drop her size. You want a box cap? Show me a six pack. You want a landing strip? You better get ripped. I apologize if you think my lines are crass. Tell me how it feels to get verbally harassed. This man's world with all its bullshit. Girls don't deserve it, and that's why we quit. We ain't good girls. We are scholastic, smart and sarcastic, not fucking plastic. Listen, mankind, if you wanna get nasty, just don't harass me. You can't just grab me, that's a sex crime. Yeah, we don't want it, it's chauvinistic. You're such a bitch.
Okay, so this music was clearly not to offend any of the men out there that I know. I agree, Aaron, it is not you, but that's not all. And, you know, you can't let one song define you. You know there are plenty of men out there like that. But it's people in general. And the blurred lines across the board. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, right? It really boils down to the story in your head and how addicted to it you are that you can't even see past it. That you are caught up in the mind, allowing the mind to dictate and master your life versus allow it to be the partner in your series of experiences. Because when that mind gets on a tailspin, you can choose when you recognize that it's going down that spiral slope to bring it right back on out. Now, how's that serving you? Come on, let's get back up here. We know better. We've already experienced things just like this, and we've turned out all right, haven't we? We made it this far. And happy 46th birthday, young. You are, Aaron. This is a special, I send you my love, my heart, because he's a special person in my life. And I absolutely love you, truly, and I know you know that. And I just want you to all just Send out love to those people and compassion and kindness, because there's a lot of people out there that don't get it. They're not on board. They haven't figured out their own stuff, let alone us trying to project our stuff on others, because that's what's going on here. Yeah, thank you, Ava, for sharing. Sharing is caring. The more you spread the love, the more you share these videos, the more you're going to actually touch someone else's life, you know? That degree of separation, you just never know who's going to see that video on your page that needs it, and that could shift something in your life, especially if it's a loved one that doesn't listen to you. They may see a video and go, oh my gosh, and they get it from someone else. Because those closest to us don't always get us. They think they know us, but they're basing it off of this old story, this old experience, and their own filters and perceptions and beliefs, and it's bottom line stories. None of them are real. They don't even exist. What is a story? A story is a series of creative, because that mind is pretty darn creative, isn't it? It can go off and it can tell the most, it can tell the worst story or it can tell the best story. But how come it is so easy for us to get caught up in the worst case? Why do we think we need protection to imagine the worst instead of envisioning the best? You know how much more energy you would save focusing on the best case scenarios? Picturing yourself where you wish to be as opposed to stuck in where you've been? It's that attachment to the past that keeps us stuck repeating the same patterns, those same stories that keep bubbling up, and we just want to say, I can't understand why this keeps happening to me. Well, did you deal with and confront the stories from the last time? And if you see the pattern and you really recognize and embrace, oh my gosh, that is it. It was that I felt like that person was going to fix, help, make my life better, when in reality it's an inside job. It's only going to come from within. Where attention goes, energy flows. And the more you feed the worst case scenario, the more you keep reliving it and repeating it. I know I'm a perfect example. Been there, done that. I know I'm a powerful manifester. I call myself a master manifester because I'm going to tell you I can make magic happen, and I can also repeat old patterns if I allow my mind to go in that direction. My life wasn't happening for me the way I wanted it to for many years. Why wasn't this person good enough? Why wasn't I good enough? What was wrong with me that I needed to change for another person? What was it about myself I wasn't accepting that the person wouldn't accept? That's where you need to go. What am I not looking at in myself and accepting that I need for me first? And we're not talking about selfish as in like me, I'm not sharing and hoarding it all. What we're talking about is actual self-care, self-love, and going within and going, my inner child's really pained, really hurt. It feels abandoned because I don't even acknowledge and recognize it and tap into it and see the beauty that it still holds and the innocence and the naivety that it experienced through life, that it's just really just acknowledging it and saying, I hear you, I see you, I feel you, I'm with you. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. And so often we look to other people to do that for us. We want somebody to put their arm around us and say, it's going to be okay. When we're younger, that's different. When we're little, we need that. And if we didn't get it when we were younger, that's all the more reason we need to do it for ourselves. I know, I was one of them. I didn't get enough attention when I was a child, and I looked for others to pick me up and help me feel better about myself. I looked externally for the validation. I worked harder for things because I thought it would get me recognition, and that was a form of love, acknowledgement. At work, I would put in more than 100%, and it would come back and bite me on the ass. Because what I wasn't recognizing was there's a point where desperation also shows. and it can be your downfall. Desperation is the reason people suffer the most. We're trying so hard to please everybody, but looking within and seeing, what do we need really? We don't need somebody else. It's nice to have someone compliment you, to be your complement, not to compliment, right? Just one letter difference. When you're whole, let me tell you, the whole person will also enter your life. When you're willing to look beyond the surface and the experiences external to you and really just start peeling away the layers, dig away at it. It's painful at first, and it's going to bring up tears. It's about the breathing. If you're not breathing, you're holding it against yourself. Think about that. It's like when you hold your breath, you're holding your life against yourself. It's this internal combustion. It's this, your body needs your nourishment. It needs that prana, that life force to sustain and maintain it. And the more we focus and really just tune into our breath, we start to learn our own body's language and what it's telling us about what's going on up here. It's incredible the amount of information we think we need to acquire external when it's really just right here, and that's all you need. So, blurred lines and stories, right? I had to find a parody for that song because otherwise I get copyright spanked on this viewing, right? So really it's important. We all have dreams. You know, the dreams that we hold, the visions we hold, sometimes we want to share that with other people that we love. But sometimes the people closest to us are not always the exact people who will uplift, support, and bring it around to us. Sometimes you don't even realize the person closest to you has the most resistance and wants to see you fail because of their own fear of success in their own life, their own jealousies. That's a toughie. It's super tough to have to discern and learn. And I've learned the hard way that if you share certain stories with certain people, you know, if they're stuck in their stories and their patterns, you may get this, yeah, whatever, you know. Show informer, please birthday wish. Snow informer. What's snow informer? I don't understand what that is, Erin. You're going to have to explain. So, when we think we can share something that we really hold dear to our heart, you have to learn to discern those people who truly are there to support, uplift, and will get excited for you, with you. As opposed to those people who may be closest to you and they have their own little resentment towards you that also keeps that positive energy from bringing you up. You know, like I posted in the post I posted earlier about like a balloon. They can actually cause your balloon not to lift up into the air because they take the wind out. It's the energetic, it's that current, right? And you want momentum. You want people who are going to be like rooting for you, cheering you on, showing up for you, because you want to be able to show up for you too. And so if you're feeling held back, first it's happening internally. There's your own internal fears you have to work through and work on and confront and accept and honor, because we all have weaknesses, we all have pains and hurts. The more we confront them and go, wow, that was that, but this is now. It's time to release that and not be attached to it and stuck with it, right? So rewriting the story even in your mind, it's the most important thing you can do is to rewrite it. And I've talked about this often. You are the architect, the artist, the painter. You are the master of your domain, and you have to decide how it looks, not based on what it was and how it's looked, because that's past. If you come into the present moment, the presence, the gift of life, right here, right now, and you try to maintain this joy, this beauty, this bliss, and you create a momentum, right? So if you set an intention, I'm going to have a fun day, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to go play, and just watch that you know you have to have a conversation with somebody. Let your little inner child jump in there and let it play, and you'll be amazed how playful your dialogues and your interactions become. And it's contagious, it's infectious. Everybody wants to have fun and laugh and joy and sing and, oh, I love you, you know? Everybody wants to feel that. It's a connection. That's what makes us feel love, is connecting with others. Avocado tree free. Ooh. You know we love our avocados, Erin. So yeah, it's so simple, but yet so difficult because of the patterns and the habits and the belief systems we've been experiencing. And we have to get out of that space. We have to find the self-care, self-love, and the time for ourselves. So Aaron is off to a nap. He's going to have birthday with his kids. And that's his fuel for him. And so sweet dreams. I love you, Aaron. I love you so much. Happy birthday to you. And everybody can wish him a happy birthday. That's super sweet. And you know, one of my favorite songs is by Tears for Fears. It's Breaking the Chains. Woman in Chains is a beautiful song, you know, and it brings up emotion for me because it reminds me that for so much of my life I felt like I was weighed down by chains, where I didn't know how to move forward and I didn't know how to appreciate my life for what I had, because I was working so hard to please others, to prove myself worthy in work, in my family, my loved ones. Why am I not worthy? And as a result, it just created blockages and pain and suffering in my life. Why am I not worthy? Why don't I have the person and the things that I want in this life? But see, that's the illusion, the idea that I needed something else to validate and make me feel that way. And I'm still working through this, as many of you have followed me all through the weekend. And what happened yesterday brought up so much, but so beautiful, because I realized, and one of my things is I'm not here to fix anyone. And that's the hardest, most humblest thing that you can come to as a conclusion of how do I deal with this situation. Sometimes the solution is you stepping back and acknowledging you're not here to fix anyone else. We do love we have our loves, and we want them to be in the best place ever in their lives. We want the best for the people we love. But the best thing we can do sometimes is to step back and only intervene when asked. To listen, to hear, and intently listening to understand and let them be heard and seen, as opposed to listening to respond or react or get pulled into the old story and the defenses that happen sometimes. Sometimes they just need to hear you, to be seen and be heard. Because if you're a child and you don't get that, you grow up constantly looking to get that from others. You find that you're constantly trying to prove yourself in areas you never needed to, but because of the childhood wounds, we grow up in a scenario that keeps repeating itself. Why am I not getting what I want when I'm doing so much more than anyone else? Hey, Laura. You know, we think, oh, well, if I give more, I'll get more. But it's for the wrong reasons, because we're attached to the outcome. We're attached to the idea that if I give more, I get more. Or if I love you more, I'll receive your love back in return. All of that's the illusion of the mind. We're working so hard to please somebody else, but we never stop to check in and go, are we doing okay in their inner child? And I know my inner child was going, I'm feeling abandoned, because you're so worried about what everybody else thinks of you that you're never stopping to consider that maybe this doesn't feel right. Maybe I'm giving too much and I'm not not receiving what I really need. Oh, Shelly, honey. Okay, Shelly, kill the app, repeat, and hopefully you can hear this. You say no volume. Restart your phone and then reopen the app. That sometimes helps for me. So the inner child is really where all of our pain resides and where we need to tap into and focus and heal. And when I was on the phone with my sister, I caught myself later. I sat there with it and I realized I allowed myself to be pulled into the old defense, the old attack, defend, victim story that she was already in. She was in a good place with me when she was in my home, but it was very easy for her to also tell me all of what was going on there and then use a little itty bitty incident from my home to turn it into something negative that wasn't. And that's where the mind becomes your master and you are enslaved. And you have to turn that around and question, confront, and ask it. Is that really the truth of what transpired? Is that the truth of the matter? Is that the truth of my inner child? Yes, the inner child that is so wounded is going to say, I feel suffocated and attacked and everybody's coming at me. But you also need to tap into the inner wise woman that says, it's not a reflection of who you are. It's just the experiences you've had that you are so attached to that are replaying in your mind, and your experience feels just like that because that's where you're stuck. So if you're used to playing the role of a victim, it's very easy to turn around and replay it in your next encounters, right? But the minute you take back your power and you recognize all I need is my own self-love, to breathe into those spaces and to heal. And for every person, it's going to be different. Every person's experience is going to be different. Every person's pain and suffering comes from different places, whether it was verbal abuse, physical abuse, mental, emotional abuse. All of these different abuses create traumas in us, and nobody can understand it but you. And just telling somebody about it may be cathartic, but try not to keep telling the story because you start reliving it, and again, the energy flows to it. So the more you are telling the story, repeating it, you're reliving it, and creating the momentum for it to keep on happening if that's your story. The idea that my sister has heard that she has a mental illness is a story. And this is why I dislike labels, because labels keep you stuck in a box. And to me, it's no different than the rest of us. We have pains and hurts in our lives that need healing. PTSD, traumas, it's all the same. And if we get stuck on labels, we just lose sight of the healing. And all that is a victimhood. I have this label lingering over me that I can't release. And you can't move forward until you change something, do something. Change up your patterns, change up your behaviors, embrace where you're at, and see those as learning lessons and blessings. We say, I took it Beyond Addiction, and Satkar, she said, it's the blessings without the bows, the gifts without the bows. Those are actually what give us the most growth when we tap into them and recognize them, honor them, and appreciate them for how far we've come. Our lives may not appear to be golden from, our eyes, but to some people, of course it does, because they're not inside. They don't get the filters. They don't get your experiences and your list over here, right? And they shouldn't, because then you don't also get theirs either. It's one thing to listen to somebody with the intent to hear them and to stand under them, to try to get in their shoes to understand them, but it's still coming through a filter. It's still coming from your experiences, your belief systems and stories. And so often when you speak with somebody, And sometimes you may need to precursor with people and say, listen, I just need someone to listen to me right now. I would appreciate if you could just be a kind ear of compassion for me at this moment in time, because I don't need a solution or answers. Because there's so many of us who want to help and fix, but we rarely realize that sometimes if we just sit and listen, we're helping them more than ever, more than we could ever imagine with a solution, a fix, or a helping in some way, shape, or form. Because when we try to help, we're trying to control the situation, not only to make them feel better, but to make us feel more comfortable, because we feel uncomfortable if another person we love is uncomfortable, right? And some people will say, well, we're supposed to rally together and be loyal with certain people because, you know, they're close to us, they're our friends. But who said we had to have these situations where we all just jump on the bandwagon? It's not always for the right cause, and it's not always serving. You have to discern where your help is requested, where you can truly serve them, as opposed to, you know, they wronged you, I'm going to wrong them, or, you know, these reciprocal ways of righting a wrong. And sometimes the best right is to not even engage in certain things. Hi, Chrissy and Christine, all my peeps on Facebook Live over here. Ava, hey Sharon, and Shelly, Laura, and Linda. You're all so beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey Joanne, hey Desi, hi Lisa, and Stavri. Thank you for sharing my video. You just never know who you're going to touch out there. Hi Rick. Yeah, so many people. Hi Kristen. I love you all. And, you know, again, like I always say, hi Susan and Leonello. Ciao, Leonello. It's where you show up. Just showing up is half the battle. And so when we have these situations, or we have this beautiful vision, we have these dreams, you have to kind of sometimes hold it close to your heart. And you know what? Your inner child is just as good of a person to confide in. They're going to get excited. They're going to support you. You just tap in and go, oh, I'm so excited about this idea I have. This vision is so grandiose and beautiful. And your inner child's going to be like, thank you so much for sharing. This is so cool. Let's have fun. Let's play with this. You know, sometimes you have to be careful about the information you spread and share. Because the only reason we really want to do that is because we want people to validate us again. So sometimes when we do that, it's not getting the validation. We're just trying to connect. Hi, Daniel. It's just those little things in life that silence is golden, especially when you are working on cultivating the self-love. When someone says something that's unkind, sometimes it's best to not say anything. You have to discern if it's even worth a response, and if it is a response, let it be love and grace and ease flowing from your heart. Tap into the inner wellspring of who you are and allow yourself to stay on that higher plane, right? Because even the person who says something unkind needs love, or they wouldn't be so angry inside and seething out and it coming out, right? Because everything starts up in here, and those people who are the most bitter, resentful, angry are the ones that are the worst off on the inside, because they're so fearful of so many things, so angry with themselves. They haven't healed their past wounds. They're afraid of being rejected. So even that is a self-defense mechanism. It's a fight or flight. Hey, Dr. Rob, thanks for joining. So when we know better, we do better. And that's paraphrasing Maya Angelou, the amazing songstress and poet and author. And when we have amassed so much information and wisdom for ourselves, and we're the ones who know and see the situation for what it is, we're not always, it's not necessary to call it out, right? This is where the true wisdom and application of it all comes. Sometimes you just want to bark at someone and tell them, well, you don't see this, and this is what it is, and you can really make your life so much easier because you're angry because you care, right? And we can easily be dragged down into those old patterns, but let me tell you, when you can find your calm amongst the chaos, this is going to be your key, because the calm amongst the chaos is going to allow you to shine and radiate your self-love out to those around you who need it the most, and uplift them, inspire them, support them. And sometimes that's with silence. Because when you know better and you do better, it's also stepping back and going, I know better. It's not my place to fix them. It's not my place to make things better. That's their choice. And when you try to cross over the boundaries of imposing yourself, your own will, you're going to be met up with a lot of ego from the other direction. And depending on the individual, how strong they are, it's going to create this. Nobody needs that. And you have to choose, are you inviting that energy back to you? So when you speak, and it's coming from the navel through the heart with love and grace and ease and a supportive word, you do the best you can, and do it with the intent to radiate out. I mean, beam out all the love you have. Sometimes that shifts them in themselves, especially when you change up a pattern. And somebody who is so caught up in their self-loathing and seething at the anger within, if you change up how you respond or react to them, it throws them off their kilter, right? Oh my gosh, that person showed me kindness. Wow, wait a minute. It's like the Jedi mind trick, I say. Because then they're like expecting one thing. You give them another, and they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I just got boosted with this ray of light. Nobody's ever done that for me before. Think about the pain inside that we can all release. And when we tune into the inner pains and we work on the healing that we need within in our inner child, think of all the suffering we can truly avoid, deter, release, when we let go of the expectations and let go of the ego's control, and we change it into the role of the servant, right? Because the ego is meant to serve you. Let the ego serve you. Give it tasks of grandeur, of beauty, of positive images and visions and dreams that you have, that's in your heart and soul. There's the disconnect. The heart and soul are not in alignment. When this thing is too strong, there's the disconnect from here, right? When we're truly speaking our truth, all of the chakras are aligned. When I say chakras, I mean the creative energy and the flow of the Kundalini, right? There's so much talk about Kundalini, right? And people think in terms of Tantra, and they think it goes off in whatever belief systems you may have attached to over the years, or the stories that people told you, or what you read, or the associations that have been around the words, right? So it's like, if we're not flowing freely with all of this beautiful energy, this life force, the prana is the sustainer and the maintainer. If you're not fully in touch, expanding, contracting, right? We're all breathing the breath of God. That's what makes us one. We are all one. Every one of our cells is nourished and nurtured by the prana, that when I exhale, you are breathing in my prana, and when you exhale, I'm breathing in yours. Across all time and space, energy is in constant motion. But it's when we get stuck in the mind that we create stuck obstacles, pains, restrictions within the physical body. And so we bring it back, right? And when we're in those times of fight or flight, the most important thing you can do is to tune into the breath. Breathing deep into the pelvic floor, expanding the belly up through the diaphragm, and the chest lifts. And then the exhale, the chest lowers, and the diaphragm lowers, and the stomach comes in. And when you squeeze that last little bit out, by squeezing in at the navel point, you get that last stagnation out, right? It's so powerful, and it's the one thing everybody has lost connection to. And it was my message for this year, is if you don't teach anything at all, it's to teach the importance of breathing fully into your life. Living prana, breathing life. Because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the breath of life, right? The life force. It's the only thing we need, really. We don't need water and we don't need food, but we didn't come to this planet in this human form to go without, right? Some of us may have, there are breatharians and there are people who live in monasteries, but the whole purpose of life is engaging in relationships. And whether you cultivate the one within or the ones without, all relationship is important. Beautiful, Ava. All relationships are important because they tell you about yourself. And so where you start is your choice, whether you cultivate it inside. But I will tell you, when you start working with others, those will be the most important relationships that will tell you the most about yourself. So for years for me, I've been working on myself. My last relationship ended over 7 years ago. And it was my wake-up call that I was needing to tap into my self-love. The person showed me where I was. It was the most beautiful thing, the most painful, eye-opening, holy crap. Oh my God, Becky. You know, like those moments where you go, okay, I get it, I'm done, moving forward now. Sometimes that's what you need to move through life and to flow, is to walk away from something. But every time you do, you're walking away with something. You never walk away empty-handed. You're never, from any relationship. There's no such thing as empty-handed relationships. You can go in with a fist, but you're going to get a fist, right? And that's going to teach you something just as much as if you go in with the open hand and the awareness and the reciprocity, right? So yeah, 7 years ago. And then for many years, I'm working on me. And I decided, I remember it was in November when I was looking to buy this house. I hadn't found it yet, but it was November of 2014, and I said to the universe, I'm ready now. It's time for me to put myself out there. I'm open to receiving another person into my life to compliment me, not compliment me. And that's where the test started. It all began there, right? And the first person was testing my boundaries, you know. Unfortunately, one of the biggest problems in our society is we don't even realize we don't know how to communicate as individuals. And one of the hard lessons is that, you know, and this is for everyone, doesn't matter if you're male or female, our society, our culture puts the sex out there in your face to such a degree in the advertising that it's socially acceptable to have certain conversations that are totally inappropriate with strangers. So when you're getting to know someone, people do these flirts. And don't get me wrong, there's flirting in divine dance. And that's the way it should be. But not if you don't know how to articulate the proper flirt and the proper dance. So relationships are key to teaching you what is it you're willing to accept and what it is you're willing to give and receive, and what do you want to dance with? Do you want to dance with somebody who's looking at you through blurred lines, right? Because they don't even know themselves, and it feels more comfortable to stick to what the norm is, as opposed to going within and doing their own work. And that shows you how far a person is on their path, and they're evolving and they're growing. So this first person was all about these conversations, asking about sex and this and that. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work for me. And that following year, I encountered men who would try to speak my lingo, speak my talk. Oh, that's not feng shui. Talking the spiritual talk, but you could tell they weren't walking the talk. And I'm thinking to myself, does this work for people? People believe this stuff? It was crazy. It was craziness. I was going, wow, okay. But it was also for me to learn the lessons of what I wanted to accept and allow into my space. And then I met someone who I truly could see into their soul, which is very easy for me, and I could see a connection. And an old pattern of mine came up, and the conversation went from spiritual talk to, over the course of some months, I was missing physical interaction. I was missing and needing physical touch in my mind, right? And as a result, I allowed things to go beyond where I should have, and I compromised myself, my being, and I was like, whoa. And I watched my mind go into the fight or flight of trying to figure that other person out, trying to decide upon what my next course of action was based on what they were or weren't doing. And I'm like, okay. And I realized through my own inner work, that person was brought into my life so I could sit with the old patterns and work through them. They gave me the biggest gift they could ever give. There's a sweetness, and I could see their soul, but they were not caught up with that. Their own life has their own drama, and I was turning a blind eye to what was truly in my face because I wanted the soul person. I saw the potential of the person. And quite often, many of my relationships have been like that in the past. I could see their potential. Well, how does that serve you if they're not living their potential, right? And that's with your family members too. You can see their potential, but that's the ideology based on your little belief system, your stories and experiences off to the side, right? And you gotta go, oh, I am projecting on them. But that's why we have relationship, to learn where we're at, and also to see where others are at, and just see that beautiful dance that everyone plays and honor and respect it. The fluidity is keeping it in motion and keeping the momentum. Okay, this one came in, and let them go out. Ah, here comes another. Ooh, there they go. Jan Van Zandt had a book called In the Meantime, and during that time when I read it, back when I was living in Italy, it was absolutely what I needed, because I had had a relationship with someone off and on for many years prior to my Italian boyfriend, who came in again into my life, and I realized, oh, well, that's what that was. It was an in the meantime. And in the meantime, I have learned all this about myself, right? So these relationships that aren't, you got to get past the, ooh, where's this going? Because that was me in the past. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that, oh, it has to be going somewhere because we've already started something. Well, maybe it was just in the meantime to get you to see your patterns like it did for me. Or it just was what it was, right? But truly, there's a lesson and a blessing for each and every one of us. We're always going to walk into something and come back out with something. It's just the question of how you perceive it. It's where your mind goes. It's whether or not your mind is actually attentive enough past the veil, past the belief systems. Is your mind able to see the blessing in every experience? Or is it stuck in the blurred lines of communication and connection to the inner self and those outside of you? So one of the biggest things that I gleaned from everything I was reflecting upon with my sister and my father was that, I know that there's pain in both of them, and I can see it, and I know it, and I feel it. But I've also seen so much growth in my father, and I can get mad and I can complain about it. But you know what? I have to also allow him his space to grow and to do his own work. I mean, yes, I can send him a message and be upset and tell him everything that's wrong with the situation and what he should do. And I've done that. I did that. I did it a lot this past week, okay? But ultimately, it's his choice in how he proceeds forward. I can see the pains and the whys and the hows that he gets upset, and I can see the inner seething, the bitterness that comes out. But I can't change that, and I'm not meant to, and I don't want to, because that's an internal job. And each and every one of us has those moments where we just let stuff fly out of us that we go, I'm so sorry. The most courageous and humblest thing that will help you grow and deepen your relationships with others is to be humble enough to say, I'm sorry, I did not mean that. I apologize. Because the fear of being rejected or the fear of being disliked is just as strong in you as it is in the other person. And sometimes these words that we say that are unhealthy and unkind turn out to be the words we can soften afterward if someone sees our courage and our vulnerability to speak up and say, I'm sorry. I did not mean that, and that's just a reflection of what I'm dealing with inside. The key is to see it, because when you're mindful of what's going on within you, you can be mindful of what you project, you radiate, and what you speak and say and do. And the moment you're aware of something within yourself, that is the moment you have the opportunity to change, to make a change, make a shift in your life, to totally go, whoa, I get it now, like I did with so many of my experiences in life. It's like, thank you for the lesson. I see you. I hear you. I know you got. I've been here already before. Thanks for reminding me, by the way. Thanks for reminding me I should have certain boundaries and self-care and love. Because it's always going to come back to that, and there's going to be plenty of experiences down the road, no matter how much work you do, that are going to pop up just to remind you, hey, do you remember that lesson we gave you about 5 or 6 times already? Well, we're throwing it at you just because we want to check and test and see if you got it yet, right? Life is a divine comedy. Not just Shakespeare's comedy, but it's the divine comedy. We take it too serious, and we don't know how to transmute and transform it into the humor and the joy and the bliss that it was really meant to be. And that's the key, is really just tuning in and tapping into it and going, oh, well, that was a cute little joke. And I took it that serious and took it on physically. Whoa. I had the opportunity to turning something around that was so unhealthy and toxic for me into something so beautiful. Just sharing my stories with you, I know I have shifted the stories. I am rewriting my stories. And I'm doing this because I want you to know you can do the same for yourself, and to show you that life is meant to be magical, mystical and fun and joyful and bliss, right? I show up because you show up, and you inspire me to do this more, because I know I'm not just doing it for me. I'm the last person on my list in that, but it feels good to know when people are reaching out. I get these beautiful messages, whether it's through a private message or through Facebook directly. You are my inspiration, because I know that my stories are stories that aren't uncommon. They're just my experience, and that they're similar to many that we all have, but we just all come from these different backgrounds, belief systems. Our stories are never the same, but very similar, or we feel the pain of another because of the trigger that hasn't been healed within us. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate your comments. Thank you for the compliment. Thank you, Ava. And so, that's why I say sharing is caring. I don't say it just because I want to be out there. I do it because I want others who are ready to hear what I have to say, because I know there are plenty of them, and when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and the teacher could be just so simple as one click away, right? Facebook and social media is amazing. Let's turn it around and use it for good. Stay off that negative bandwagon. Let the monkey mind go into the shift of all the beauty that really does exist. See beyond the veil. See beyond the conditioning and the old stories. That's where you're going to soar. That's where life becomes beautiful. The self-love alchemy. This art of loving yourself and allowing the inner golden child to come out. Oh my gosh. Fun, playful. You get some of the most amazing people show up in your life because you're showing up in yours, right? That's how it works. The attention, the energy, it's free flowing. We're keeping ourselves in this eternal bliss and this powerful space of cultivating something that each and every one of us wants. But some are afraid to even look within. And the irony is that nobody else is going to see but you. Nobody else could reject you but you for those experiences and pains that you've had along the way. So when you take the time to go within yourself, you're doing so much service for so many others, for your family, your friends, your ancestors before you and after you. You're healing more than you could ever know when you go within and you loosen up and let go of all the angst that's built up, right? So my ultimate gleaning from my personal practice and meditation this morning was, wow, okay, I see where this is at. I can't fix the situation. I'm not meant to. I have to step back and allow them their space. You are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Ultimately, I would like my sister to come stay with me for the week and see if that helps, because I understand when people come to stay with me, and I've had a few friends that have, and they've been kind and told me how much I helped them in a short amount of time. Because I feel that if she spends a week with me, maybe she'll soften and she'll get the wisdom that I share with all of you, because she's very open, especially when she's being loved and nurtured in her space. And so we'll see. We'll see if it ends up happening and if that resonates for her. Or if the loving, compassionate, kind words that I sent to my father makes a difference as well. Because as upset as I am about certain things, or was upset, I also recognized my attachment to the way things I wanted them to look, how I wanted them to be and look. It was causing me that suffering, right? Just because he wasn't doing things a certain way. But I can't fix it, and I'm not meant to. And that they have a relationship, they need to speak out and work out instead of going into the old patterns of yelling, screaming, not listening. Because if she spent that much time with my mother for many years, it's like for him arguing with her when they were married. And then becomes the martyr, and people will say things, well, fine, I'll just leave, or fine, click. Because they're not listening with compassionate ears. We just want to be heard. We all want to just be heard. When you want some particular treatment, you also have to extend the same treatment. It's the golden rule. It's the golden rule of life, not just religion, right? Do unto others as you would want done unto you. Even since I was a little girl, I knew that. How would I treat somebody? And I try my hardest that for me, if I treat you with kindness and respect, it's coming from my heart. And before I even knew it, it needed to be toward myself as well, I've always tried to extend love and compassion to those around me. Because that's how I want to be treated as well, right? If I want to be heard, I also have to listen. Not let the mind go into, well, let me come back with this information, or let me share this, or let me respond or react or retort. Listen. Intently, in listening with the intent to hear, to see, read between the lines, and to stand under the other person. Recognize the other person as yourself, because they're reflecting you. And you're going to see the pain within them that is actually still in you. And especially with those of us who didn't have the attention we needed growing up as young children, now we're adults. Now we just have all this information and we just need to go within and recognize what it is we need for our own self-care and self-love and nurturing. Then we can extend it to everyone else, right? The more kindness and love and compassion you have for yourself, the more it's going to fill you up like this wellspring. And then you just become this fresh air breath that just walks in, and you uplift the world. You uplift the people in the room. You walk into the room and everybody's eyes on you. I want what she has, right? Ooh, check her out. What is it about that person? It's self-love. It's self-love. It's not desperation. It's not, hey, see me, where's my little sign, right? That's the inner child that needs nurturing. The one that usually will walk into the room with the please see me, hear me, because we haven't been tapping inside to recognize what we needed first. So I hope this is really resonating with some of you and you're sharing it to friends you know could really use it, or even clicking the invite button. I really felt more relaxed and rested with that, and reminding myself that you know how hard it was to work on what you've worked on, and it's not going to be an easy road for your sister. The best you can do is be there for her and support her as much as possible, but you can't fix anyone. Can't force your will on anyone. And you have to come from a space of love, understanding, and compassion from that inner child, and knowing what you've been through and extending the same back to the other people, and honoring and allowing them their space to grow and evolve in their time. When they're ready and they ask for advice, you can give it. But try to also come from those spaces that, what would you want to be told? How would you want to hear it? Because the way your delivery and your words and your energy is going to set the tone completely. Right? So I love you all. I'm sending you oodles and oodles of huggies and kisses and mwah, 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 mwah. Lots of love for this beautiful Monday. It's Monday, isn't it? Whoa. I'm teaching at 6 p.m. at Yoga Village tonight, so you can join me if you're in the area. I hope that whatever it is that you gleaned here today, that you're able to carry that through for the rest of this afternoon and evening. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Have an amazingly blessed day. Mwah. From my kitchen.